Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, former President Donald Trump is subpoenaed by the House January 6th committee and ordered to testify by mid-November. And early voting is well underway across the country ahead of the midterm elections. We'll speak with party leaders and experts about the impact early voting has on campaigns.
Plus, you'll still need some warm clothes if you're headed out to football this evening, but things do look better as we head into tonight. The breakdown ahead as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Former President Donald Trump was subpoenaed by the House January 6th committee, the body investigating the insurrection at the Capitol in 2021. WYMT Washington News Bureau reporter Peter Zampa is on Capitol Hill with the latest.
Former President Donald Trump officially subpoenaed Friday after the January 6th committee voted last week to do so. Now they're asking for testimony and relevant documents from Trump. The delivery of the subpoena comes on the same day Trump ally Steve Bannon was sentenced to 4 months in jail for defying his own subpoena. In the document, Democratic Committee Chair Benny Thompson and Republican Vice Chair Liz Cheney lay out facts from their ongoing investigation, directly connecting Trump to the insurrection and the attempt to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Cheney and Thompson add they understand the significance and historic nature of their subpoena. Trump is just the 4th president to be subpoenaed, but Thompson and Cheney also mention other former presidents have testified before Congress as ordinary citizens. As of now, it's unclear whether Trump will actually comply with this subpoena. The committee wants all of these relevant documents no later than November 4th, followed by 1 or more days of testimony beginning no later than November 14th. Reporting in Washington, I'm Peter Zampa.
Well, throughout the region, still an opportunity to get out and look at some of that beautiful fall foliage throughout the mountains. We still have some of it in those trees out there. A look outside from our Mountain Parkway camera at Slade. You see plenty of color there on the trees with the leaves that are left. And a pleasant temperature, 67 right now at Slade. A look from downtown Whitesburg where the sun is already, at least in shouting and down, or at least has already shrouding downtown, and you'll see we'll continue to see things on the cooler side as we head through tonight. Still near 70, Manchester, Somerset, and in Irvine, upper 60s elsewhere. Wise, though, already at 59. Winds out of the south really bringing us that warmer air. Satellite and radar, except for some high clouds, is a clean sweep throughout the evening. So if you're headed out to our Appalachian Wireless game of the week, the Battle of US 119, Pineville taking on Harlan, near 60 at Kick, which is in about a couple of hours, and falling through the 50s during the game. So grab that hoodie just in case. I'll have the details on when we see a return to some more spring-like weather coming up in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Since the start of the war in Ukraine in February, the U.S. has deployed another 20,000 troops to Europe, taking the total to around 100,000. Many are in Eastern Europe. CBS's Charlie D'Agata is in Romania with more.
They're specifically trained to deploy on any battlefield in the world within hours.
Go, 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 go!
Ready to fight. The reason one of America's most elite air assault divisions has been sent right here, right now. We joined Deputy Commander Brigadier General John Lubis and Colonel Edwin Mathaidis, commander of the 2nd Brigade combat team, on board a Black Hawk helicopter for an hour's chopper ride to the very edge of NATO territory, around 3 miles from the border with Ukraine. From the start of the war, Russia advanced from Crimea along the Black Sea to Kherson, aiming to capture port cities like Mykolaiv and Odessa to landlock Ukraine. We're right about here.
We're ready to defend every inch of NATO soil. Why is it necessary to have the 101st here? We bring a unique capability. We're a light infantry force, but again, we bring that mobility through our aircraft and our air assaults.
We skirt along the Black Sea coast as we head further north.
We're roughly 20 miles away from Snake Island, this contentious island that's been fought over between the Ukrainians and the Russians, currently under Ukrainian control.
At a forward operating site, we watched as U.S. soldiers and Romanian troops pounded targets in a joint ground and air assault. The tank rounds and artillery fire are real. so is the enemy, meant to recreate the fight against Russian forces in Ukraine. A message to Russia and NATO allies alike: we're here.
The real meaning for me to have the American troops here is like if you were to have allies in Normandy before any enemy was there.
In all, roughly 4,700 soldiers of the 101st Screaming Eagles from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, have been deployed to reinforce NATO's eastern flank.
You've had an opportunity to watch, observe, and possibly study the Russians. What do you think of them so far?
So we're closely watching them. So we're building objectives to practice against that replicate exactly what's going on in Ukraine. We're the closest American unit to be fighting in Ukraine.
And what does that feel like? What does that mean?
It keeps us on our toes, right?
Ready to fight tonight is a message that we have heard repeatedly, and it's not just about defending NATO territory, but if the fight escalates or NATO partners are attacked, they're fully prepared to cross over into Ukrainian territory if ordered to do so. Charlie Daggett, CBS News, Constanța, Romania.
Burnout in the workplace is rampant. It has become such a problem, the U.S. Surgeon General has laid out new guidelines to protect mental and physical health in the workplace. The Surgeon General suggests these 5 steps: intentional measures to protect workers from harm, offering opportunities for growth, fostering connection and community, looking for ways to enhance work-life harmony, and creating a workplace culture where employees feel they matter. The Surgeon General's report noted factors that fuel an unhealthy workplace include long commutes, unpredictable hours, and a lack of influence. It is a fact that cannot be emphasized enough. When it comes to beating cancer, early detection is key. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and today is National Mammography Day. Let's take a look at screening guidelines from the American Cancer Society. Women who don't have a personal or family history of breast cancer have the option to get an annual mammogram from the age of 40 to 44. Women between the ages of 45 and 54 should get a mammogram every year, and women 55 and older can choose to be screened every other year. Again, those guidelines are for women considered at average risk for breast cancer. Women considered at high risk are typically advised to start getting a mammogram or breast MRI at the age of 30. Millions of Americans are already able to vote ahead of this year's midterm elections. Most states have an early voting option that experts say is being used more frequently than in the past. As WYMT Washington Bureau's Peter Zampa reports, it's changing the way campaigns are run.
It is something that benefits both voters and the people that administer our elections.
Early bird gets the vote. The midterm elections are already in full swing. Millions of voters hitting the ballot boxes early, according to the United States Election Project, getting votes in at their convenience without long lines. 46 states and D.C. allow for early voting. Bryce Bennett from the nonpartisan organization Vote Early Day says making voting accessible should always be the goal.
We want to make sure that everyone, no matter who you are, where you come from, or who you're voting for, has a chance to cast your ballot.
But moving away from one climactic day where everyone votes has an impact on how candidates campaign. Danielle Alvarez from the Republican National Committee says they're encouraging voters to hit the polls whenever they can.
It's all about math. We have to make sure that we get the votes in.
Sam Cornell, executive director of the Democratic National Committee, says his party heavily invested in technology and data to track voter trends with the rise of alternative voting methods.
We believe in every American's right, whether they support us or not, to cast a lawful ballot in every election.
But politically, who benefits from early voting? Mark Rahm, a political expert from Georgetown University, says everyone wins when votes are locked in.
And the better that the parties are able in motivating their voters to vote early, the better they're going to be able to do.
Rahm says historically Republicans utilized early voting more. But in 2020, former President Trump discouraged early voting. Rahm says this year Republicans may feel lingering effects of Trump's request, potentially to their detriment. He says instead of focusing on November 8th, these political campaigns should be thinking of the month before as one long election day.
Every vote that you get now is one less voter that has to go on election day.
Vote Early Day is holding early voting events across across the country on October 28th in an effort to drive more turnout ahead of November 8th. Reporting in Washington, I'm Peter Zampa.
Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, consumers are ready to go big on Halloween again. We'll show you some hot costumes and how inflation is affecting prices.
Plus, comfortable air continues to filter into the mountains for the weekend. The latest on how comfortable it is coming up after this.